Would you talk briefly about vegetable oils and, sort of omega-6 fats and sort of the toxic issues around some of these oils?
Sure. So if you look at hunter-gatherers, they are ingesting omega-3 to omega-6 fats at about a 1-to-1 ratio. So you get omega-3 fats from things like grass and plankton. And so any animal that's eating what it's supposed to eat, like a cow eating grass or any kind of quadruped ruminant animal eating grass, is going to have a very high omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Or any kind of wild-caught seafood that has plankton at the base of its food pyramid, it's going to have a really good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. So animals eating what they're supposed to eat have an excellent omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, almost 1-to-1. Wild seafood with plankton at the base, 1-to-1 ratio. Any kind of herbivore, omnivore, carnivore with grass on a terrestrial food basis ladder is going to have a really good ratio. The problem is when you just take part of a plant, like the nuts and the seeds. If you just look at nuts and seeds, they have a very high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, and it's it could be 20-to-1. And unfortunately, when you eat these fats, they get incorporated into your tissues, into your cell membranes, and into your connective tissue. And we know in the animal world that if you just eat pork, too many soybeans and too much soybean oil, for example, you end up with what's called soft pork. It's where the tissue quality of your pig is really, really poor because it's so filled with omega-6 fats. And the fat quality, the fatty acids you're eating get incorporated into all your cells and end up affecting your body. They can affect your cell membranes, your connective tissue, your mitochondria, and all sorts of things. So you really don't want half your body to be omega-6 fats, but we're just watching humans get a higher and higher and higher percentage of omega-6 fats in all of their tissues because we're basing so many of our food calories off of things like soybean oil or nuts and seeds and nut and seed oils, which have this crazy, crazy ratio. It's really something you want to pay attention to. That's why I think that industrial seed oils are really to be avoided. They're actually quite bad. You're getting way too much of this stuff in the standard American diet, and you really want to steer clear of it. The ways to do that are, first of all, avoid industrial seed oils like the plague, and secondly, go out of your way to eat animals that themselves were eating what they're supposed to be eating, which is basically grass-fed ruminants and wild-caught fish and seafood and pastured eggs and that kind of thing.
I think people don't understand too that animal foods are not only just made up of saturated fat, that there's a variety of fats in animal foods.
Right. Every food on Earth has a pretty good smattering of monounsaturates, polyunsaturates, and saturated fat. And all three of those fats are in everything except for just sugar, which is unfortunately no fat at all, or except for something like certain nuts and seeds are really, really high in polyunsaturated. But yeah, you're right. Like pork fat, if you have pastured pig pork fat, it's basically kind of the same fatty acid profile as olive oil. So there's really not much difference there at all.
So we don't need to be terrified of eating the saturated fat, cutting it off our meat, unless we need a much lower energy intake.
Right. Yeah. As long as the animal is eating what it's supposed to eat, you don't really have to fear the fatty acid quality there. But again, you might not want to eat that much energy. And that's one of the things you have to watch out for. Domesticated animals, sometimes we just really, really, really fatten them up. So if you're eating bacon, you're eating the very fattest part of the fattest animal that's been artificially fattened. And so the protein energy ratio is kind of low. And you're not going to get the very leanest if that's all you're eating. You know, like just pure lard would probably be the worst, and bacon's not as good. But you eat something leaner, like, you know, Canadian bacon or center cut bacon or ham or something, you know, with a higher protein energy ratio, you're probably going to lose more weight.